My name is Gerald Chambers. I'm a marriage and family therapist. I work with individuals and couples and families. I also work with men who have been convicted of domestic violence on changing their behavior. Today I'll be reading from and commenting on a post I found on Reddit submitted on September 13th by Willow898 entitled, "I Feel So Lost." I thought it might be helpful to read it and discuss it to help you better understand domestic violence. You will find the link to the post in the description below.
We're living together. We moved in together way too soon, but we were both living in places that, at the time, we considered bad environments.
So, she was talking about she moved in too soon, partly due to a bad environment. And when I hear the word bad environment, I often think about poor economic conditions. And how many people move in together, not only because they like each other, but because they're trying to escape bad economic conditions. Trying to have enough money to make the rent, trying to live as adults. So we just move in together to try to offset some of the high cost of living. And it really brings up this whole idea about self-support. Not really a good idea for two adults to live together who are not both completely self-supporting. It's just kind of difficult. It can make if one person has all the money and the other person doesn't, it can create a power imbalance that often couples fight over. And if you're living with someone that has the potential to be abusive or that is abusive, it can just make it that much more difficult because it leads to more conflict. And not just poor people, but affluent people can find themselves in abusive relationships also. So it's not just a matter of money and property and prestige or social position, social status. Anyone can be in a violent relationship, an abusive relationship.
It started slowly. Lies I didn't catch, cheating he claimed didn't happen, and loans that never got paid back. Anytime I questioned something or asked if he could compromise so we could both be happy, he would either tell me I was being too emotional or dramatic, or he would promise to meet me halfway and then go back to his behavior a day later.
She said it started slowly. Dishonesty, lies that she didn't catch, cheating, unanswered questions. Not having her questions and her feelings validated. That's a part of gaslighting. Where your reality is not supported, acknowledged, validated. That can have serious psychological effects on a person too. To have everything they say contested, to have everything they say ignored, to not be taken seriously in a relationship. And then, he was blaming her a lot, and there were a lot of unkept promises. We have to recognize these behaviors earlier as potentially abusive behaviors. Everybody does a little bit of this sometimes, maybe not cheating, but a lot of this stuff, we have to be able to recognize it sooner so that we can prevent it from escalating into something more dangerous.
The physical stuff started later, choking during sex and banging things around when he got angry, progressed into throwing things across the room and screaming and swearing at me while I sobbed in front of his 2 and 4-year-old kids, unable to escape for fear of leaving them alone with him. At some point, he stopped taking no for an answer, and the first time he raped me was on the corner of my parents' bed while I lay there and took it.
Physical abuse ranged from choking, we saw choking, intimidation, cursing, throwing things, rape, physical assault, kicking, screaming, and then it was a cycle to it. He would get involved in it, then he would apologize, it would die down, then he'd be right back at it. And so these are all parts of abusive relationships. These are very important things to recognize and see in your relationship if you want to stay out of a abusive relationship, and if you want to prevent abuse from happening in the future.
And he would always apologize and find a way to make it better. But then a week later, like clockwork, he was back at it. Then, a few weeks ago, I caught him in a lie. He'd been lying for months, and I'd given him so much money, thinking it was going to one thing when it was really going to another. We fought and yelled. He stormed out of the place we were house sitting, which was in a strange neighborhood, but didn't take the car. He disappeared for hours while I called and drove up and down the neighborhood trying to find him because it was getting dark and I was afraid of him getting run over. He finally answered, and I finally picked him up 4 hours after he had left. He'd been walking all that time, and he had traveled so far. I brought him home. I was sitting on the edge of his bed, and I still don't fully know what happened. I know he kicked me. He kicked me so hard, I had a massive bruise for a week and broke my rib. He threw me on the ground. The sharp edge of our wooden bed frame ripped open my thigh on the way down. Another week of bruises and scars. He got on top of me as I lay on the ground. I pulled his hair to force him off of me. This only made him more angry. "This is in self-defense," he said as he wrapped his hands around my throat and strangled me. I let go. I lay there and looked up at him and tried to process how we'd gotten here. Maybe it's the cliche of life passing before your eyes before you die, but all I could see were memories of us smiling and kissing and our first date and the first time we made love and all of those moments living in the same beautiful big green eyes that were now staring at me with hatred, as if I were an insect to be stepped on and destroyed. I was in shock, and I lay there motionless, unable to process what was happening. I think this shook him because suddenly he was off of me and he went and locked himself in our downstairs bedroom. I don't remember what I did. I know I followed him at some point, but I also remember staring at the ceiling, still on the floor, unable to move. And the next day we were fine, battered and bruised and dead inside, but fine. And where were we supposed to go from there? Where are we supposed to go from here? We work together too. Everyone at work thinks he's a saint, and I'm that bitch. That I'm a bad girlfriend who is too hard on him and everyone else. They say he would give you the shirt off his back if you asked. He would. They say I'm always cranky and tired and moody. I am. Deep down, I can't leave. Deep down, I feel so strongly this really is my fault and that I'm crazy and that I pushed him to this. Deep down, I love him and I want him, and that means I want this too, all of it. But I'm so afraid of him sometimes. I just want us to be happy again. I miss seeing him the way our coworkers see him, and I don't know how to get it back to that point. I'm so messed up, I don't even know where to go or what to do from here. The kids live with their bio mom now, so it's just the two of us, and I just miss him so desperately I could scream. I'm sorry for venting. It feels good to be honest for a change.
There was also a lot of minimizing, denying, and blaming, she described. He would apologize, he was dishonest. He got a chance to just leave, as part of male privilege. He could just leave the house whenever he wanted to, and she was left with the children. He would disappear, and then he would be abusive and then turn it around as if she was abusing him or he was the victim. And we had a situation where he attacked her, she pulled his hair to pull him off of her, and he used that as an excuse for being more violent. And so we saw a disproportionate use of force. She would do something, but his force was over the top, kicking, punching, breaking ribs, he would assault her in such a way that she would quite likely need to go to the hospital, although she didn't admit doing that. But his violence was just way more severe than hers. And a lot of times men don't see that. Men will come into treatment thinking, well, she hit me, but it's not the same thing. We're much stronger. Where our violence is, violence is used to just kind of protect herself and to get your attention. Our violence is used to subjugate and injure the victim. Here we see, and in this description that she gives, we see every part of the power and control wheel. We see intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation, minimizing, denying, blaming, using children, male privilege, economic abuse, coercion, threats, physical and sexual violence. And I want to point out that the more parts of the wheel that are employed in a relationship, the more effective the abuse is in controlling the victim. It's easier to get into an abusive relationship than it is to get out. One of the reasons I picked this example and made it a video is to educate viewers about abuse, and so that they can try to prevent it before it escalates into injury or death. We need to start recognizing abuse much earlier and seeking help, asking questions, changing things before it leads to death. A lot of women all over the world are finding themselves injured, killed, raped, murdered, that sort of thing in relationships. Women have to be more concerned about their intimate partners than they have to be concerned about all other perpetrators combined. So that's difficult. Well, we already live in a tough society, and women have to be more concerned with their partners than they do people on the street. So again, my name is Gerald Chambers. The links to the post that I read from Reddit can be found in the description below. If you like this video, please leave a comment, subscribe. Let me know if this is helpful. If you want me to talk about any other subjects in the area of domestic violence, let me know. I'm just trying to be helpful. Thanks for listening.